Welcome to the latest episode of Cooking with Tammo show. I'm not Tammo. Tammo is the guy who's running expensive equipment over there. My name is Henn, so I'm a cook, and I guess he's a cookie. Anyway, the subject today's Cooking with Tammo episode is pickled beets. The size of them isn't really that critical. I wouldn't get them too large because they tend to be pulpy and lose their taste, but that's a good average size. So, if you can pick up some small ones that you can pickle whole or just cut them in half, that's also very doable. So usually there's a bit of sand and grit left on them, so the first thing one would have to do is give them a good rinse, clean them up a bit with a small brush, and cut off the stems, what there's left of it. Now, since the next step of pickling beets will be that we have to boil them or steam them to get the skin off, so we just put them in a large pot and continue cleaning up the rest of the beets. Now, beets were traditional North European food because they would, first of all, they would grow up there and they would preserve very well in the pickle conditions. So in the long winter nights, you would be eating pickled beets along with other things, of course. So anyway, this is step number one. So we have a pot full of clean beets and we're ready for the next step in pickling them. Which would be parboiling them for two reasons. First of all, it makes it easy to get the skin off, and secondly, kind of pre-cooks the beets kind of half soft, which makes them easier to marinate later on, and ensures that they're marinated through. Now, this can be done in two ways. You can boil them in boiling water, obviously, in a pot, or in our case, we're using what is called a juicer. Now, a juicer is principally intended to extract juice from various berries, which is a big thing in Finland where this thing is made. So what that does is it generates steam in a kind of lower pot. There you see the boiling water, and there's a steaming pot which goes on top. Now what we have here is a kind of runoff hose, so as the berries, or in our case beets, get heated up by the steam, they give off juice. No, we're trying to save the juice because we can use that in the downstream pickling process. So it's not going to be wasted. So anyway, the steam is up. So we're taking the pre-cleaned beets and we're going to put them into the steamer like that. You can see the steam starting to rise up, and we'll cover it like a. Now we're about 20 minutes into the steaming process. You can see the steam is nicely rising, and obviously they haven't been here long enough in the steam to make them soft. So I would imagine it will take about an hour for these things to be steamed to the degree that we want, and as everybody does not have a steaming pot, as I mentioned, there's an alternative of just boiling them, and which is what we're doing here with the rest of the batch. Now if you boil them, you can probably get away with about half an hour instead of the full hour in the steaming. The disadvantage, as I mentioned, of course, is that you lose the juices, which with steaming you don't. Now we'll see if there's anything coming out of here already, so there we go. It's a nice red, color of fine quality wine. So what we're going to do is take the juices and use that as part of the pickling mixture. Gives the beets a nice deep red taste. To your health. So we're about an hour into the boiling and steaming stage. In the meantime, we've been fortifying ourselves with fermented beet juice.
Yes, we have.
I would say we are quite well fortified. So anyway, back to business. So, these have been steaming for about an hour. Now we want to test them. So what we would do is we would take one of the beets, like that, with a fork, and run some cold water over it. Just to cool it down a bit. There we go. And we test them by seeing if the beet skin comes off fairly easily, which it does. So we would say that these are just about done, and they're fairly tender, but they're not soft on the inside. So what we do now is we take the whole pot, using the gloves, pick it up. Now these have been steaming, so it's not dripping. And we dump them in a sink. Okay. And we immerse them in cold water. Also, in the meantime, we can check to see, what we've accomplished here on the way of beet juice. Isn't that nice? I would say it's a color of a good quality Merlot. Now, at the same time, we've been boiling the beets for roughly, I would say 3/4 of an hour. And they look pretty healthy. So we'll do the same test with the boiled beets and see how the skin comes off. Oh, not quite as readily, but I think they're just about done. There we go. So maybe we'll leave it another 5 minutes or so, just to make sure that the skin comes off easier. While the beets are cooling down, we're going to extract the juice that's been gathered in the bottom of the juicer and drain it all off. So what we're going to do with this is that when we do make up the marinade, we're going to supplement that with the beet juice. And that gives the marinade a much sharper taste, or better taste, and the beautiful color. So they won't end up looking bland. Now the beets have had a chance to cool down in the cold water, and the next step is removing the skin. Now this is fairly easy. You could also use a potato peeler, without going through all of this process. But you can see, how easily the skin comes off. Now I've also got these super gloves that they're coarse and have a grit on them. So what we do under the cold running water, we just remove the skins and come out with a clean beet.
Go ahead, you're live.
I'm live. That's a nice compliment.
What are we going to do with the washing machine?
I was going to throw them all in the washing machine and run it for a cycle. Clean the skins off. Anyway, this is the proper way of doing it.
Hey, I'm Quality Control, and I'm also the guy behind the camera, but right now the talent is taking a little break. So what I'm doing is cleaning up the beets and making sure that each one has the skin nicely removed off of them, because we're just getting ready now to start to cube these guys, and you don't want to have little pieces of skin like this still hanging on. So don't worry about me, just go back to what you were doing, okay? Ciao.
So here we are. The beets have been parboiled and cleaned. We're careful to get all the skin off and rinse them. So there's a whole pot full of them. So in the meantime, what we've done is we've prepared a marinade for them. We prepared a marinade to pour over the pickled beets. Now there's all kinds of various recipes for them, for the marinade, but the very basic one is, I'll just read it off, and you know, you can look it up on the internet or alter it to your own taste. But the very basic marinade is for every 10 pounds of beets roughly. We make up a mix of 2 cups of white sugar and 1 tablespoon of pickling salt, a quart of white vinegar, quarter cup of whole cloves, and you know, that's it. Now other people add allspice and cinnamon, but you know, whatever suits your taste. So what we do is we mix it all together, bring it to a boil, and cook it for about 10-15 minutes, so the taste become intermingled. So the next job that we will be doing is we'll be taking the canning jars. You have to rinse them out, make sure they're clean, and then we'll sterilize them. There are many ways of sterilizing them, but I found the simplest one is just pop them in the oven and heat them up to, you know, so 250 degrees for 10-15 minutes, and that'll kill all the bacteria. So we'll prepare the jars, and then we'll start slicing the beets. Put them in the jars, sliced or cubed, and then when that's done, we'll pour the hot marinade over them. So we try to make as close as possible to 1/2-inch cubes, but you know, with a variety of shapes and sizes, it's pretty hard to do. It really doesn't matter. So really, you know, this is really what we're looking at roughly. The beets have been diced into, well, you know, roughly 1/2-inch cubes. So we've done that, and then the jars, we wash them with soapy water, rinse them, and then we pop them into the oven for about 10-15 minutes at 250 degrees to sterilize them. So we're ready to start packing the jars. So we'll make the job a little bit simpler. We just have a little plastic bottle here, acts as a funnel. I think we're at the end of the picking day. What we have, we packed the jars, and these happen to be old crown jars, which are probably at least 50 years old. We packed them with the diced beets, and we have the marinade, just came off the boil. So now what we do is we fill the jars, not quite to the top. They say keep it about 1/2 inch below the top with a hot marinade, and it's kind of handy to use a clean funnel, not the same one that you use for changing the oil in the car, but so oops, we gently kind of fill the jars with the hot marinade. Okay, so when that is done, we put new rubber seals on them, which is a good idea. The modern ones don't use the rubber seals, but now we have the original lids, and they do get a little bit corroded on the inside, so kind of trick of the trade is to coat the inside with some cooking oil or Pan food spray or something like that, to make it a lot easier to put the lid on and take it off again, and then the glass lid goes on, and then the screw top, and you tighten them reasonably tight. So here we are. After a day's effort, we end up with pickled beets. So Here's the pickled beets.